Hey, this is Brian again, and I'd like to ask you to do a favor. We can't do this work without people like you, so if you can, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about Bring Back the Porch.
Teaching is a hard job, and we demand a lot of our teachers, and we're so grateful for them. We have just the most incredible staff, and their willingness to be flexible, to respond to the needs of their students is second to none.
This episode of Bring Back the Porch brought to you by Bernie Leahy, River Street Realty. Let's get you home. I've been looking forward to this episode with Dr. Reagan Weeks from the Prairie Rose School Division for some time because I've followed your career almost from when you began at River Heights.
Oh, that's very kind of you. I'm excited to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad that you're here because one of the things that struck me as I was reading up is that you never shy away from a challenge. You jump in with both feet.
Oh, well, you know what? I've always been surrounded by excellent people who have pushed and challenged me in all sorts of ways. And so I've been really lucky to work with incredible people in our region. And I've had lots of wonderful opportunities given to me because of that.
You almost did not go into education, though. You were law, education. What tipped the balance?
I'm surprised you know that. That's really interesting. I think when I came out of my undergrad degree, I had an opportunity to work at River Heights, and the colleagues I had in that building were just phenomenal. And I had written the LSAT, and I was still thinking that following the securing of my permanent certificate, I might go back. But once I was in that building and had the opportunity to work alongside the people who were there and work with those students, I just fell in love with the profession, and there was no turning back, that's for sure.
And you've been going ever since.
That's true.
Yeah. One of the big challenges you accepted was to become the principal at Elm Street School. Mm-hmm. And when you went to Elm Street, I think they were one of the lowest, if not the lowest graded school in Alberta.
Well, I mean, I think there's a ranking system of schools, you know, and through that process, it was facing some challenging times. But I was so fortunate to go in that building. I'll tell you what, there were people who felt that it would have been, you know, a pretty big challenge. But I learned more from the students, the parents, and the people who worked there. I mean, they were just brilliant educators, many of whom are still my close friends today. And I absolutely believe that was a transformational experience that I wouldn't trade for anything.
And it was, you know, everybody said, well, it's got low grades and stuff, but there was reasons behind the low grades. It was in one of the lower socioeconomic neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. But you reached out to partner with the Medicine Hat College, and music played a big role in helping to turn everything around at Elm Street.
Well, you know, it was one of those programs that we were just so fortunate. It was so impactful. It was called Bring Back the Music. And through the...
Bring Back the Porch.
That's right, yeah. And through the work with the Medicine Hat College, they were able to launch just an incredible strings program. So we had violin, viola, and cello. And it began at Elm Street, but it was expanded a little later on to Riverside and then subsequently Vincent Massey School. It was just an incredible program. Seeing those kids with those string instruments and the confidence it gave them was really a wonderful opportunity.
But it brought parent involvement into the school, and that was key, I think.
Absolutely. You know, we had lots of parents who were engaged. We took, you know, a busload of kids up to the college to participate in the Rotary Music Festival in the college theater, and just wonderful experiences for these students who might not have otherwise had the opportunity to learn an instrument.
Now, you took a lot of education to get to where you are today. And one of the places you went was Johns Hopkins University, which is a very prestigious institution. How did that mold you?
Well, you know, I'm a teacher, so I love school, and it's always been something that I've been excited to do, and it's not something that felt onerous to me. I love being in class, and at Johns Hopkins, I had some advisors and some professors who were just remarkable, and who helped influence my thinking, made sure that I read what I needed to read and understand what I needed to understand, and for sure that was an incredible opportunity. But I also had some local mentors here, and so part of the mentorship process with Johns Hopkins is to have some mentors who are close by. So I had at the time Dr. Grant Henderson, and I also had Dr. Cal Hauserman, and they both played a significant role in helping me attain that degree.
Okay. Then you accept the I guess you went to be deputy superintendent.
Actually, the first job was assistant
Okay.
superintendent. Yeah, that was the first one.
Okay,
yeah.
at Prairie Rose,
That's
and
right.
you rose through the ranks until in November 1st, 2021, you became the superintendent.
That's right. Yes.
Again, a big challenge.
A big challenge, yeah.
Prairie Rose is not just a little division, maybe in student population, but land-wise, you go from Oyen down to the Canadian-U.S. border, and I think all the way west to past Foremost, I think, in Bow Island, and in the Alberta border. So you've got a lot of territory in there.
Yeah.
And lots of challenges.
That's right. Well, it's geographically massive, and so I think we were chatting earlier about community schools and how your daughter is the principal of a real community school, and that's one of the special things about Prairie Rose. It serves very distinct communities, each with their different needs and contexts, and people who live and work there. And so the key is really making sure that you have the opportunity to listen well in each of those communities, respond to really what they're looking for and how they want education to play a role in the place in which they live, and then doing your best to make that happen. But it's not easy, that's for sure.
And it is a lot different than when my father went to a country school south of 7 Persons, when there was like one building and you had probably 8 different grades in.
Yeah. Well, we do have some schools that have a wide spread of grades, but one of the things that we really believe in is making sure that our rural students have an equitable education to their urban counterparts. And the only way we can do that is through partnering with community and making sure that even though we still might have small schools that don't necessarily have the facilities you might see in a big city, what we do have is maybe a community fire hall, and we might have some expertise in different areas within that community. And how can we connect with those people? Whether we have a lot of grandmas who are really into quilting and willing to share their love of that work in our school. How can we tap into that and bring that into the building? Because we might not have some of the opportunities that you see elsewhere, but there is something really special about those rural community schools. And so just making sure that we bring that into the school walls and our classrooms.
One of the other challenges is I think there's 18 Hutterite schools that you also have to look after, and that's another different situation.
That's right, yeah. And soon to be 19. There's a split coming up, but yes, we have 18 colonies, and we have principals and teachers at each of those sites who are incredibly skilled and talented and responsive to the needs of those communities. So it's a partnership we're really grateful for. And one of my favorite days of the year. So one day a year, all of the ministers of the Hutterite colonies and all of the German teachers, so that is also a Hutterite, they all come in. So we have them all into the school division, and we have a full day meeting with all of these gentlemen. And they pull in with all their wares, and there's trades happening in the parking lot, and all the Prairie Rose staff go out and try and get the best of what they're having. But we always ask them what they would like to eat while they're with us for the day. And it invariably is Kentucky Fried Chicken or Chinese food. And one day I finally got the courage, and I just had to ask, why is that? Well, you could have anything. Anything they wanted, we would make happen for them. So why do you ask for that? And they made it really, well, who do you think supplies the chickens? And
Ding.
Yeah. So the intelligence, the business sense, the community that those colonies have developed is something we can learn a lot from. So we're really fortunate to work with them.
You touched on the opportunities for students in country schools compared to in the city, and I think over the last 20 years that has really changed a lot. I remember talking to an individual who, when he grew up out near Hilda, had to come into Medicine Hat to get some specialized training because they just did not have it where he lived. And yet now I look at the programs today in the Prairie Rose Division, and it's jaw-dropping.
Oh, well, you know what? We've had the fortune of partnering with some really great people. And as the years have come along, there's lots of technology that we're able to take advantage of to make sure that our rural students can access those programs. And then also just a willingness to be flexible. Teaching is a hard job, and we demand a lot of our teachers, and we're so grateful for them. We have just the most incredible staff, and their willingness to be flexible, to respond to the needs of their students is second to none. And so because of that, they're able to figure it out. So they really have that mindset and that approach that, you know, if there's an idea or something that they think might make school a better experience for their students, they're really committed to figuring it out. And that makes my job easier, that's for sure. And I just need to make sure that I support them in making those things happen.
One of the things that is going to be rising on the horizon out towards Eagle Butte is the Yuill School of Agriculture.
Yes.
I'm sure you're very excited about that.
Yeah, we're thrilled, so grateful for the Yuill Foundation that has contributed so substantially to that project. It just wouldn't have been possible without them. We were also fortunate to receive collegiate funding, and I know you've had her on our podcast.
Nicole Neubauer.
Yeah, she is a force to be reckoned with, and actually Mark Neubauer is the project manager of the build for the Yuill School. So all of that coalescing together has just made it a project that I know is going to be something to watch. We also have partnered with the Medicine Hat College to make sure that we have the dual credit options that'll help students increase future prospects and explore next steps. And there's all kinds of exciting things that are on the horizon there. So.
Well, when Nicole was here telling us about it early in January, it just blew my mind that this is such a great idea, and why did it take until 2025 to get it going?
Well, you know, I think funding, I think flexibility within high school programming, all those things need to come together. The ability to offer dual credit, not on just isolated post-secondary campuses, but spreading it out. And we really just had the perfect storm. The donation from the Yuills, all of that has come together. And, you know, there's so many funny things. As someone who did not grow up in agriculture and whose knowledge is you know, fairly limited in that regard, some of the things just seem so exciting. Like, there'll be an area where diggers, you know, the various equipment that's so important to make farms and ranches function properly, will be located, and students will have the opportunity to make sure they become experts in driving those areas. It's like a giant sandbox for adults. And so, you know, what a great thing to come to school and have the opportunity to learn that. And you know, it's not an either or. These programs have been structured in such a manner that students are able to achieve English, math, the various we have students who are taking all three sciences, physics, math, including physics, Math 31, and they're able to do that in addition to some of these. Now, they have to be pretty committed. Mm-hmm. You know, that might mean that they're spending more hours in the books than they would have otherwise. But we've also found that when you have something like that, pretty motivated to do so for certain students. So it's been pretty exciting.
And there will be feeders. I know the Irvin School has an agriculture program. I think Senator Gershaw's school does. I'm sure there are others.
There are, yes. So we've developed something called an Ag Pro series, and that is for grades 7 through 9. And it's a series of classes where students take 6 weeks to learn deeply about one aspect of the ag industry. So one, for example, is called Beef to Burger. And so they follow the whole process to how we might get one of those juicy burgers on our plates, for example. And that would happen in a whole host of our schools, including Ralston, Seven Persons. I believe Foremost has that program. Senator Gershaw, as you previously mentioned, Yuill School. Mm-hmm. And so these programs were able to leverage and expand across the region, which is really challenging for us, but also a really exciting opportunity in figuring out how we might do it in all the different communities that we serve.
When will the Yuill School be up and running?
Oh, I think you're going to be surprised how fast we have that operational, but we believe it will be ready to open its doors September 27.
In 2026? Oh, that's
27. September 27.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, okay. Yeah, that really would have been fast. But, you know, as I was just reflecting on this, when you were at Elm Street, you had a little garden.
We did have a little garden, tiny little garden. It's blown up, that's for sure.
Yeah. You certainly expanded it. And some of the other things that Prairie Rose offers, like the South Alberta Hockey Academy, that I think, was that one of the first programs that sort of broke the mold?
Yeah, that's right. It was our very first. It was their very first program, and so there was someone who worked for Prairie Rose who was really passionate about bringing the CSSHL to southern Alberta, and we started with high performance hockey. So there was no teams. We started in a number of our rural areas, but the goal was to be a part of the CSSHL, and that was achieved within a year. So when we launched that program, I believe it was in 2018. I was a little unsure. Like, I grew up with a brother who played a lot of hockey, but I wasn't sure how that would go. But there was just such passion that we said yes, and we gave it a try. And then, of course, we had the fortune of partnering with Willie Desjardins, which helped a whole lot. It's those community partners theme here, making sure you have people who champion and who are expertise and who will work with kids to make great things happen. And so that was really fortunate. And when that came to fruition, I've told this story a few times, but I watched it pretty closely, and I was able to see the connection those kids had, the sense of camaraderie, the confidence, the leadership, the way they looked adults in the eye, and they shook their hand, and they just moved through the world a little differently than some of our other students. And we started to ask ourselves, like, what if we were able to find something that maybe wasn't targeting elite athletes that might do the same thing for a different group of kids? And sure enough, happened to golf with one of the owners of Super T Aviation and came up with the idea of the Flight Academy. And then that same employee who started the Hockey Academy worked with a colleague at Eagle Butte High School who was just passionate for aviation, and that was Dave Rosdeba. And so the program was named in his honor and as part of his legacy, and now his daughter actually works in the program. And so, yeah, it all started there. That's right. And
you also have a drone program.
We do.
That is cutting edge.
We do. Well, the drone program is gaining traction, and we're moving along. It's in its initial stages, but we have the drone games where a number of our younger students have the opportunity to liaise with drones, and they do at Eagle Butte Fields a variety of challenges with those mini drones. And then quite recently we purchased an agriculture drone that we have some plans next year to implement in a variety of high school courses. So in the Flight Academy, students are certified in their level 1 unmanned vehicle certification from Transport Canada. I'm not sure I have that name quite right, but that's close. And then some of our students go on to their level 2 as well.
You also have baseball, the Badlands Baseball Academy.
We do. That is in Oyen, and that's our oldest. Actually, that's our very oldest program, and that started long before I ever joined. And there are some real passionate baseball fans in the Oyen area, and they're the group that started it. But it originally was held separately from Prairie Rose School Division. We just provided the education for the athletes. And then several years ago, we integrated it into Prairie Rose. So it is now part of our program. But that is an excellent program that's championed by the good people of Oyen. So.
And rodeo is another big one out at Foremost.
That's right, yes. And so again, really lucky to have some people who are passionate about that. That program started with Michelle Cowie, who has been a teacher in Foremost School and a strong athlete for some time. And then Brittany and Guy Kamistic are running that program now. In order to make that happen, there is a partnership with the Foremost Ag Society. And they have a beautiful building out in Foremost that they received some exciting provincial funding to bring to life. And so we're able to access that facility to really enhance training. And then there's a number of coaches who work out there in the variety of rodeo disciplines who come in and work with the kids, once or twice a week.
And you have a fire rescue academy, too.
Yes, we do. We do have a fire and rescue academy in 2 spots. This one is one that I'm really excited about. So this has been going for about 3 years now, I believe. And we have it in partnership with Cypress County and the town of Bow Island. And one of the things that's really exciting about this program is that we definitely will have some students who go on to pursue firefighting as their long-term career. But as you know, in rural communities, that's not the only people who go out and fight grass fires fairs when they come to be, actually the whole community comes out to assist. And think of how important it is to have students who will be highly trained, earning high school credits, and that pride and that ownership of something that they've really earned and had to work hard for. Because attaining level 1 and level 2 firefighting is hard. Like that is a big challenge that requires significant studying, book work, and then physical prowess to successfully navigate those requirements. And so there's that piece of it, but then also what they're able to give back to their community. And the mentorship they have received from both volunteer and career firefighters in both of those regions has just been incredible. And I'm really, really excited about what those students receive in terms of connection, support, leadership, and the ability to just do more than they thought was possible. They get pushed pretty hard in that program. It's not easy.
No.
Yep.
You have another program, too, and I saw the initials. What are they, blowing things up, TNT?
You know what? That's called Try New Things.
Yeah.
And that's for some of our youngest learners. And so that's a program that I believe was brought in when Melissa Gugulinski was the principal of I.F. Cox School in Redcliffe. And so that's a school that serves students from kindergarten, well, actually from pre-kindergarten. We have some really, really young learners there, to grade 3. And those students have an opportunity to work with community leaders in a variety of ways. They might be calling you to see if you'll come in and teach some kids broadcasting. But yeah, that program provides kids with all different sorts of skills and a chance to work with community leaders in a variety of ways. And then the other piece that's connected to that program is that at that school, students have jobs posted. So reading the morning announcements, holding the doors open at the beginning of the day, helping to serve lunch, those types of activities. They fill out job applications, they have interviews, and students in grade 3 can be selected to perform those jobs for the school. So it's a great program that teaches real meaningful skills at a really early age.
Life skills.
That's right. Yeah.
And the Warren Piers Makerspace, that sounds interesting too.
Yeah, so Warren Piers is in Acadia Valley, so that is one of our northern schools, and that's a program that is just getting off the ground that involves giving students an opportunity to play with various pieces of technology. A laser cutter is on order, and they have some ideas there that might give students a chance to really play with some technology and make things happen in the classroom. That's exciting. And there again, we'll rely heavily on the volunteers and the parent communities. It's something we've been so lucky to have, is parents who are really committed to coming into the school and participating, which allows us to do programming in the school that otherwise just wouldn't be possible without parent support.
Ralston School is another interesting place because
It
you
is.
have international students there, and I believe you have just recently been put on a program, an international baccalaureate.
Well, that's right. So Eagle Butte actually is the first to launch the IB program, and it will start in September. And students will be able to take International Baccalaureate in Math and English, and then they'll also be able to earn a careers diploma. So that's a really exciting initiative. And from that, discussions evolved with Ralston. So in Ralston, we serve a lot of students who have a parent in the British military. And one of the challenges is that in Alberta, it's the only British military base where they're not actually learning the British curriculum. And so they're here for a short time, and they need to transition then to a British school. And that transition has historically been quite a challenge for those families, and making sure that they have all the requirements that they need to go back and be successful in their system. And this attainment of this certification will mean a much smoother process for those students that we serve in Ralston School. And we also have a good deal of indication that the number of students, both on the Canadian military side and on the British military side, will be increasing. And even with our Canadian soldiers, their children often will not be here for the duration of their education. So it too will make it easier for them to transition back to whatever province or perhaps an international base that they will be relocating to as well. So this is one of those things we sort of think to ourselves, we should have thought of this a long time ago. So a huge congratulations to Jason Dukeshire and Sonia, who's actually one of our British teachers. So she's from the UK and works at Ralston School, and they've her name's Sonia Stanton, and they've both just championed making this happen for our Ralston community. So we're excited.
Something else that is available to students is a dual credit program.
That's right. So that's available for high school students across Alberta. So that's available in all school jurisdictions, and really has become more prominent for us in the last 3 or 4 years, and we've been adding and increasing options for our students. There's lots of ways to do dual credits and lots of different institutions you can partner with. The one that we have the most extensive partnership with is the Medicine Hat College, and we work with them for our healthcare aid program, which has served a number of students. We have found we have several Mennonite students who are interested in taking that program, which has been really advantageous for them. And then we also have a huge number of students taking the trades program. That has exploded to just shy of 120 students who are enrolled in that trades program. And we actually have a lengthy waiting list of students who would like to participate. And so, one of the challenges with rural high schools is that you won't necessarily have a shop that has all of the different trades disciplines integrated into it, because there's just not enough students, right? And you just can't build that type of shop in some of these tiny rural high schools. So what we were able to organize is that students are able to come in and access the shop at the college and do the book work in their home community. Okay. And so, for example, we have a busload of kids coming in from Oyen to access that opportunity at the Medicine Hat College. And that has been so wonderful for those communities. And it's exciting because students are learning a trade and then working with a business to gain hours back in their home community, which also increases the likelihood that they have gainful employment and potentially stay in that community. So it's a win for the community as a whole, and a huge win for us because we're better serving students with the things that they're passionate about and like to see as part of their future.
Yeah. Colin Gallant with the CBC did a story here in the last 2 weeks about a special person in the Prairie Rose that travels to Oyen 3 times a week. That is 190 kilometers one way. And she's there to look after the well-being, the mental well-being of students.
Yeah, so she's one of our SWCs. So those are their student wellness coordinators, and we have a number of them working across our schools, and they really are the most incredible people. Like they'll bring joy wherever they go, and they take care of really important needs across our school division. And the one that was interviewed by Colin spends a lot of time behind the wheel, and we're really, really grateful for that. But it's actually remarkable how many kilometers our staff put on those vehicles on a daily basis. It's quite something.
Yeah, and the kids themselves, the students.
Absolutely, yeah. Some of them have really lengthy buses,
and you have put I think Wi-Fi available now on them so that help them do their homework when they're making that long commute.
We try. I don't think we've quite managed it on all of our bus routes, but on a number of them, and we're always trying to figure out how we can optimize. It's almost like you got a board game and you're trying to move the pieces around to try and optimize bus routes. But that's another example where parents have been really helpful. They know those roads better than we do, and actually the municipalities know those roads better than we do. And through consultation with them, we've made some strides in optimizing how those routes are laid out, and we'll keep trying to do that because there's no question that's a challenge.
Well, you've made strides in communication, because I can recall the days when the weather wasn't good in the country and the phone in the newsroom would be ringing off the hook with bus driver, bus number 42 is not running today. Can you tell everybody? Now you have it all on your website, and the phone calls stopped.
Well, I think that certainly has helped. We also have drivers who are skilled at building relationships with families, and will reach out directly to those families and let them know. So in Prairie Rose, because we serve such a large geographical area, the other thing that's really important is that we distribute decision making. And so when it doesn't make sense for a bus route to run, that is a driver decision. That's not something that comes to the superintendent or that we try to make in central office in Dunmore when we're serving an area that's 2 hours away. So that is the bus driver who makes that call, and they make that decision as to whether or not it's safe, just because they're in a better position to do so. And I think that type of an approach has helped with those communications as well, because they can then communicate with families, and then they let us know, and we put it on the website what their decision is.
Well, it is remarkable how Prairie Rose functions, and I think it starts from the top down. I think you have spread your energy through the entire division, and I'm glad that we had this chance to sit down and talk.
Oh, that's really kind of you. Thank you for having me. It was wonderful to be here.